The galaxy watched in stunned silence as reports poured in from across the stars. Strange phenomena, cracks splitting open on distant moons, shadowy tendrils consuming entire colonies, and whispers haunting those who dared approach marked locations, spread fear like wildfire. Earth's secret was no longer contained. It had awakened, and its reach extended far beyond the blue planet. Clara stood atop a crumbling skyscraper on Earth, her environmental suit battered but functional. In her hands, she held the combined artifacts they had gathered, their combined energy pulsing faintly. This was their last chance. If the plan failed, there would be no backup, no second chances. Nathan and Victor waited below, keeping watch for any sign of the void's return. "Are you sure about this?" Nathan called up to her, his voice tight with worry. Clara didn't answer immediately. She focused on the task at hand, channeling every bit of energy from the crystals into a single concentrated beam aimed at the heart of the planet. The ground trembled violently, and the air crackled with static electricity. "It's now or never," she muttered under her breath. Activating the final sequence. A blinding light erupted from the artifacts, spreading outward like a shockwave. For a moment, everything froze. The shadows, the whispers, the creeping darkness, all silenced. Then, with an ear-splitting roar, the void recoiled, retreating deep beneath the surface as fissures sealed shut one by one. Clara staggered back, her strength spent, and collapsed onto the rooftop. Below, Nathan and Victor shielded their eyes from the glare, unsure if they had succeeded until the trembling stopped completely. When the dust settled, Earth was eerily quiet once more. Its thick clouds rolled lazily across the sky, hiding the scars left behind. Clara made her way down to join the others, her face pale but determined. "It's done," she said softly. "For now." Nathan hugged her tightly, relief washing over him. Victor, though shaken, nodded grimly. "Let's hope it holds," he muttered before turning away, unwilling to stay a moment longer. Back on Solace Prime, Daniel Brooks received word of their success just as he prepared to leave for Earth. He stared at the message, torn between pride and sorrow. Clara's sacrifice, to stay behind and ensure the containment field stabilized, had saved countless lives, but it came at a cost. He vowed to honor her memory by continuing the fight, ensuring that humanity never forgot the lessons learned. The Galactic Council finally acknowledged the danger posed by Earth and issued strict orders forbidding anyone from approaching the planet. Monuments were erected to commemorate Clara's bravery, and her name became synonymous with selflessness and courage. Nathan returned to his work, haunted but resolute, dedicating his life to studying the remnants of the architect's legacy. Victor disbanded the Void Seekers, disappearing into obscurity, forever changed by what he had witnessed. Daniel published a comprehensive report detailing everything they had uncovered. The architects, the void, and the horrors buried beneath Earth's surface. His findings served as both a warning and a reminder, a call to humility in the face of forces humanity could barely comprehend. Earth remained vacant, its role in the galaxy restored as a silent sentinel guarding against ancient terrors. Far above, the stars twinkled brightly, oblivious to the chaos that had nearly consumed them all. Earth's place in the cosmos was secure, for now. But somewhere, deep within the planet's core, a faint pulse echoed, a reminder that even the strongest seals could weaken with time. And when that day came, someone would need to be ready. Until then, the galaxy breathed a collective sigh of relief, grateful for the fragile peace they had fought so hard to protect. The team regrouped aboard their ship, the weight of what they had uncovered pressing heavily on them. Clara examined the second crystal closely, her scanner beeping softly as it analyzed the artifact. "This one's different," she said finally, her voice tinged with both excitement and dread. "It's not just a map or a beacon. It's a key, a way to amplify the containment field around Earth." Nathan nodded, his expression grim. "But we'll need more than 2 crystals to make it work." Victor paced restlessly near the cockpit, his earlier bravado replaced by unease. "And how many more are there?" he asked sharply. "What if we don't find them in time?" Clara hesitated before answering. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I do know this. Every second we waste gives that thing another chance to break free." Nathan stared out the viewport at the ash-covered moon below, his mind racing. Each artifact seemed to awaken something darker, something older. The shadows, the whispers, the relentless pressure. It all pointed to an intelligence far beyond anything they understood. He couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't just fighting a force. They were challenging a will. And whatever it wasn't going down without a fight. Back on Solace Prime, Daniel Brooks worked tirelessly to decipher the data he'd recovered from Earth. Fragments of coordinates, symbols, and energy signatures painted a picture he barely comprehended. Sophia joined him late one night, her face pale with worry. "You're chasing ghosts," she said quietly, glancing at the glowing screen. "Whatever happened on Earth, it's ancient history. Why risk your life for this?" Daniel didn't look up. "Because it's not just history," he replied firmly. "It's happening now. Nathan and Clara found something. Something dangerous. If we don't help them, no one else will." Sophia sighed, knowing she wouldn't change his mind. Instead, she handed him a small device. "Take this," she said. "It's a prototype shield generator. Maybe it'll buy you some time if things go wrong." Meanwhile, Nathan, Clara, and Victor followed the next set of coordinates to a remote planet cloaked in perpetual twilight. Jagged cliffs loomed over vast plains littered with strange ruins. As they approached, Clara's scanner began picking up faint readings matching those of the previous artifacts. But something felt off. The air was colder, heavier, almost suffocating. "Stay alert," Nathan warned, gripping the makeshift torch tightly. "This place doesn't feel right." They entered a crumbling temple, its walls adorned with intricate carvings depicting scenes of destruction. In the center of the room stood another crystalline structure, larger and more complex than the ones they'd encountered before. Clara moved cautiously toward it, her hands trembling slightly. "This is it," she whispered. "If we activate it, we might strengthen the seal." But before she could finish, the ground shook violently, knocking them off balance. From the shadows emerged a figure unlike anything they'd seen before, a towering being made of shifting darkness, its form constantly changing, dissolving, and reforming. Its hollow eyes locked onto Clara, who froze in terror. "Run," Nathan shouted, pushing her back. Victor fired wildly, his shots doing nothing to slow the creature down. It advanced steadily, radiating an aura of despair that sapped their strength. Clara clutched the new crystal desperately, whispering calculations under her breath. "We need to channel its energy into the structure," she yelled. Nathan nodded, understanding immediately. Together, they positioned the crystal atop the pedestal, activating it with a surge of power. The temple erupted in blinding light, forcing the entity to retreat into the shadows. For a moment, everything went still. Then, slowly, the crystal dimmed, its glow fading. Clara slumped against the wall, exhausted but alive. "It's done," she murmured. "For now." But Nathan knew better. Each victory came at a cost, and the void was growing stronger. Back on Solace Prime, Daniel prepared for his own journey, unaware that he was stepping into a battle far greater than he could imagine. Earth's secrets were unraveling. And soon, the entire galaxy would learn why fear had kept it vacant for so long. The journey to the distant moon was tense and exhausting. Nathan, Clara, and Victor traveled aboard a small battered ship salvaged from Earth's surface, one of the few vessels left behind by previous explorers. None of them trusted each other fully, but they shared a common goal: survival. The coordinates etched into the crystal led them to a desolate world covered in jagged mountains and endless fields of ash. It felt wrong, unnatural, like a place that had been stripped of life long ago. As they landed, the air outside was thick with static electricity, crackling faintly against the hull of the ship. Clara adjusted her environmental suit, checking the readings on her scanner. This place, it's giving off the same energy signature as the crystal, she said, her voice muffled through the helmet. Nathan nodded, gripping a flashlight tightly. Then we're in the right spot. Victor stayed close to the rear, his weapon drawn despite the lack of visible threats. He didn't trust this moon, or his companions, but he knew he couldn't face whatever lay ahead alone. Together, they ventured into the barren landscape, following the scanner signals toward a massive structure jutting out of the ground like a broken tooth. Its surface shimmered faintly, reflecting the dim light of the gas giant hanging above them. Inside the structure, the air grew colder, heavier. Strange symbols lined the walls, glowing faintly in patterns identical to those they had seen on Earth. Nathan traced one with his gloved hand, feeling a familiar vibration beneath his fingertips. "These are the same markings," he murmured. "This has to be another piece of the architect's system." Clara worked quickly, setting up equipment to analyze the structure while Victor kept watch. His eyes darted nervously around the room, searching for movement in the shadows. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional hum of Clara's devices. "I'm picking up something deep underground," she said after a moment, her voice tight with tension. "It's pulsing, like a heartbeat." Before anyone could respond, the ground trembled violently, nearly knocking them off their feet. A low rumble echoed through the chamber, growing louder with each passing second. Then, without warning, the floor split open, revealing a chasm filled with writhing tendrils of black smoke. The same shadowy figures they had encountered on Earth emerged, twisting and surging toward them with terrifying speed. "Back!" Clara shouted, grabbing her scanner and retreating hastily. Nathan followed, clutching a makeshift torch made from scrap metal. Victor fired blindly at the creatures, but his shots passed harmlessly through them. "They're not real," he yelled, panic rising in his voice. "How do we stop them?" "We don't," Clara snapped, already heading for the exit. "We need to get out of here. Now." They ran as fast as their suits allowed, the shadowy entities closing in behind them. Just as they reached the entrance, Nathan noticed something embedded in the wall, a second crystalline artifact, smaller than the one on Earth, but glowing brightly. Without hesitation, he grabbed it, ignoring the searing heat that burned through his glove. Instantly, the shadows recoiled, retreating back into the chasm as if repelled by the crystal's light. Breathing heavily, the trio collapsed outside the structure, watching as the ground sealed itself once more. Clara examined the new artifact, her hands trembling slightly. "This isn't just another piece," she said softly. "It's part of a network, a failsafe. If we can find the others, maybe we can strengthen the containment field on Earth." But even as hope flickered briefly, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. The artifacts were powerful, yes, but they were also fragile, and the entity they sought to contain was growing stronger with every passing day. Somewhere, buried deep beneath Earth's surface, the void stirred, waiting patiently for its chance to escape. Far away, Daniel Brooks continued piecing together clues from the data he'd recovered. Unaware of the dangers awaiting him, he prepared to follow Nathan and Clara's trail. What he didn't realize was that his search would lead him straight into the heart of the galaxy's greatest nightmare. The dim glow of the larger crystal in the cavern cast long shadows on the walls as Nathan, Clara, and Victor stood frozen, staring at it. The realization that the seal wasn't permanent hung heavily over them, like a storm cloud ready to burst. "What do you mean, it's still alive?" Victor asked, his voice sharp but laced with unease. He had come seeking power, not an endless nightmare. Clara sighed, her hands trembling slightly as she adjusted her scanner. "The containment field is holding. For now," she explained. "But the crystal's energy is fading. It's like a bandage over a wound that's too big. Eventually, it'll break again." Her words sent a chill through the group. They had managed to stop the immediate threat, but the victory felt hollow. Earth's secret was far more dangerous than any of them had imagined. Nathan stepped closer to the crystal, his mind racing. "If we can't fix this here, Maybe we can track down the other locations tied to these symbols, he suggested, pointing to the coordinates stored in the smaller crystal. There might be more artifacts out there, pieces of whatever system the architects built to contain this thing. Victor scoffed, crossing his arms. And what? Hop around the galaxy chasing ghosts? We don't even know if those places are safe. His skepticism was tinged with fear, though he tried hard to hide it. Clara shot him a glare. Do you have a better idea? She snapped. Because unless you want to stick around and wait for that thing to wake up again, I suggest we try something. Reluctantly, Victor agreed. Leaving the cavern behind, they made their way back to the surface, where the ruins lay eerily quiet. The earlier chaos seemed to have drained the life from the area, leaving only silence in its wake. As they walked, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Every shadow seemed darker, every sound louder. Earth wasn't done with them yet. Back at their camp, they began planning their next move. Using the data from the crystal, Clara mapped out the nearest location marked by the mysterious symbols. It was on a distant moon orbiting a gas giant at the edge of the galaxy, a place few dared to explore. This won't be easy, she admitted, showing the others the map. But if we're going to figure this out, we need to start somewhere. As they prepared to leave Earth, Nathan took one last look at the planet. Its thick clouds obscured its surface once more, hiding the horrors beneath. He felt a pang of guilt knowing they were walking away from a problem they hadn't fully solved. But staying would only lead to disaster, and possibly death. Clara placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. We did what we could, she said softly. Now we keep fighting. Unbeknownst to them, Daniel Brooks had finally reached Earth aboard a freighter. Landing near the ruins, he called out for Nathan and Clara, unaware of how close they had come to catastrophe. When he found their abandoned camp, his heart sank. Scattered equipment and signs of struggle told him they had been in serious trouble. Picking up a discarded scanner, he noticed fragments of data still stored within. Coordinates, symbols, pieces of a puzzle he didn't fully understand, but one he knew he needed to solve. Daniel realized he wasn't alone. Movement in the distance caught his eye, and he turned to see Victor Kane emerging from the shadows, battered but alive. Their eyes met, and for a moment, neither spoke. Then Victor broke the silence. You're too late, he said bitterly. They're gone. And trust me, you don't want to follow them. Ignoring Victor's warning, Daniel vowed to continue the search. Whatever secrets Earth held, they were tied to the fate of the galaxy. And someone had to uncover the truth before it was too late. Far above, the stars twinkled faintly, oblivious to the horrors stirring below. Nathan and Clara huddled in the crumbling shelter, their breathing heavy as they tried to process what had just happened. Outside, the ground continued to tremble, and the air was thick with the smell of sulfur. The tendrils of black smoke had retreated for now, but the ruins around them were eerily silent, as if holding their breath. Nathan glanced at Clara, his face pale but resolute. We can't stay here, he said quietly. If that thing comes back. Clara nodded, clutching her scanner tightly. But we can't leave the crystal either, she interrupted. It's the key to understanding what's happening. Without it, we're blind. Nathan hesitated, torn between survival and curiosity. He knew she was right. The crystal was their only chance of figuring out how to stop whatever was waking up, but retrieving it would mean risking their lives again. As they cautiously made their way back toward the site of the chaos, they found Victor Kane crouched near the glowing artifact. His usual arrogance was replaced by a look of desperation as he examined the crystal, muttering to himself. When he noticed Nathan and Clara approaching, he stood abruptly, pointing a weapon at them. Stay back, he barked, his voice shaky. You've done enough damage already. We didn't ask for this, Nathan shot back, his anger rising despite the danger. You're the one who barged in and triggered whatever that was. Clara stepped forward, trying to reason with him. Look, we all made mistakes. But fighting each other won't help. If we don't work together, none of us are getting out of here alive. Victor hesitated, glancing between the crystal and the two scientists. For a moment, it seemed like he might lower his weapon. Then the ground shook violently again, and a deep guttural roar echoed through the ruins. All three froze, their eyes wide with terror. Whatever was buried beneath Earth's surface was no longer content to stay hidden. The trio reluctantly agreed to cooperate. For now, using Clara's scanner, they discovered that the crystal wasn't just a map or a beacon. It was also a failsafe, designed to contain the entity sealed within the planet. Activating it fully might restore the prison, or it might unleash the horror entirely. "We don't have much choice," Nathan said grimly. "If we do nothing, it'll break free anyway." Victor reluctantly handed over the crystal, though his distrust was evident. Together, they returned to the cavern where Nathan had first encountered the larger crystalline structure. The air inside felt heavier than before, pressing down on them like a physical weight. The walls pulsed faintly with light, synchronized with the glow of the smaller crystal in Clara's hands. "This is it," Clara whispered, her voice trembling. "If we activate it here, it might stabilize the containment field." She began inputting commands into her scanner, sensing it with the crystal. Nathan stood guard, watching the entrance nervously. Victor paced behind them, visibly uneasy. "How long will this take?" he demanded, his impatience growing. "Long enough for you to stop complaining," Clara snapped, her focus unbroken. As the crystal's glow intensified, the ground shook once more, and the shadows outside the cavern grew darker. Nathan tightened his grip on a makeshift weapon, ready to defend them if necessary. "Hurry," he urged, his voice tight with fear. Finally, the crystal let out a blinding flash of light, and the trembling stopped. For a moment, everything was still. Then, slowly, the oppressive energy lifted, and the ruins fell silent. Clara slumped against the wall, exhausted but relieved. "It worked," she murmured. "I think we contained it." But their victory was short-lived. As they prepared to leave the cavern, they noticed something strange. The larger crystal in the center of the room had dimmed significantly, its light flickering weakly. Nathan frowned, stepping closer to examine it. "What does this mean?" he asked, dread creeping into his voice. Clara stared at it, her expression grim. "It means the seal isn't permanent," she said softly. "Whatever's down there, it's still alive. And sooner or later, it'll find a way out again." Earth's secrets were far from solved, and the galaxy remained unaware of the ticking time bomb buried beneath its surface. The next morning, Nathan and Clara were focused on analyzing the crystal when they heard the faint hum of engines in the distance. At first, they thought it might be a routine check-in from the EOS, but the sound grew louder, more aggressive. Clara frowned, lowering her scanner. "That doesn't sound like our ship," she said, her voice tense. Nathan stood up, squinting toward the horizon. Through the thick haze, he could make out the shapes of several small vessels descending rapidly. Before they could react, Victor Kane's team emerged from the ruins, weapons drawn. They moved with precision, surrounding the camp in seconds. Victor stepped forward, his cold eyes scanning Nathan and Clara before settling on the crystal in their possession. "Hand it over," he ordered, his voice sharp and commanding. "This doesn't concern you." Nathan instinctively stepped in front of Clara, shielding the crystal behind his back. "Who are you?" he demanded, trying to keep his voice steady despite the fear rising in his chest. Victor smirked, gesturing for his men to close in. "Let's just say I'm someone who appreciates history and power. That artifact is coming with me." Clara gripped Nathan's arm tightly, her mind racing. She knew they couldn't fight these intruders, but surrendering the crystal felt equally dangerous. "We don't even understand what it does yet," she said, addressing Victor directly. "Do you really want to risk unleashing something you can't control?" Victor's smile faltered for a moment, but he quickly masked it with arrogance. "I'll take my chances," he replied. His men raised their weapons, leaving no room for negotiation. Realizing they had no choice, Nathan reluctantly handed over the crystal. As soon as Victor took it, the ground beneath them trembled violently. A deep rumble echoed through the ruins, growing louder by the second. "What did you do?" Clara shouted, panic rising in her voice. Victor looked just as startled, clutching the crystal tightly. The trembling intensified, and cracks began to form in the earth, spreading outward like spiderwebs. Suddenly, massive tendrils of black smoke surged upward, twisting and writhing as if alive. The shadowy figures Nathan and Clara had glimpsed earlier now materialized fully, lunging toward Victor's team with terrifying speed. Chaos erupted. Victor's men fired wildly, but their weapons seemed useless against the smoky entities. One by one, the invaders were engulfed, their screams cut short as the darkness consumed them. Victor himself barely escaped, dropping the crystal as he fled into the ruins. Nathan grabbed Clara's hand, pulling her away from the carnage. "We need to get out of here," he yelled, his heart pounding. They ran deeper into the ruins, dodging falling debris and the relentless tendrils of smoke. Behind them, the crystal lay abandoned, glowing brighter than ever. The ground continued to shake, and the air grew thick with an oppressive energy. Clara stumbled but quickly regained her footing, her breaths coming in ragged gasps. "What's happening?" she cried, glancing back at the chaos unfolding behind them. "I think the planet's fighting back," Nathan replied grimly. "Or maybe protecting itself." He didn't know which was worse. Either way, Earth was no longer passive. It was actively defending its secrets. As they reached a crumbling structure that offered temporary shelter, Nathan turned to Clara. "We've got to figure out how to stop this, if whatever's waking up gets loose." Clara nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. But stopping it wouldn't be easy. The crystal was still out there, pulsing with energy, and Victor's interference had only made things worse. Somewhere in the distance, they could hear the faint sound of footsteps. Victor, likely regrouping after his narrow escape. He wasn't going to give up easily. Earth's defenses had been triggered, and now everyone was caught in the crossfire. The galaxy would soon learn why this planet had remained vacant for so long, and why tampering with its mysteries came at a terrible cost. That night, as Nathan lay on a makeshift bed inside their camp, he couldn't sleep. The visions from the crystal lingered in his mind, haunting him. Just when exhaustion began to take over, he heard it, a faint whisper calling his name. It wasn't audible, not in the way sounds usually were. Instead, it echoed inside his thoughts, soft but insistent. At first, he thought it was his imagination, a trick of fatigue. But the voice grew clearer, pulling at him like an invisible thread. Nathan sat up, glancing around the dimly lit tent. Clara was asleep nearby, her breathing steady. He didn't want to wake her, not yet. Silently, he grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside. The ruins loomed eerily under the pale light of the moon filtering through Earth's thick clouds. The air felt heavier than before, pressing against him as if the planet itself was alive and watching. Following the voice, Nathan walked deeper into the labyrinth of crumbling structures, his footsteps crunching softly on broken stone. The whisper led him to a hidden cavern tucked beneath the ruins. Inside, suspended in midair, floated a crystalline structure similar to the one they had found earlier, but larger and more intricate. Its surface pulsed with a soft blue glow, casting strange shadows on the walls. Nathan hesitated for a moment, then reached out to touch it. Instantly, another vision flooded his mind. This time, far more vivid. He saw Earth again, but now he understood its purpose. It wasn't just a world, it was a prison. The architects hadn't abandoned it. They had sealed something within it, something ancient and malevolent. And whatever it was waking up. When Nathan returned to the camp, he was pale and trembling. Clara woke immediately, sensing something was wrong. "Where were you?" she demanded, her voice sharp with worry. Nathan struggled to explain, his words tumbling out in a rush. There's something here," he stammered. "Something old older than the architects. Earth isn't abandoned. It's a cage. Clara stared at him, her expression shifting from concern to disbelief. A cage for what? She asked slowly, dread creeping into her voice. Nathan shook his head. I don't know. But it's waking up. We need to figure this out before it's too late. Clara wanted to argue, to tell him they should leave while they still could. But deep down, she knew they couldn't turn back now. If Earth truly held some ancient horror, ignoring it would put the entire galaxy at risk. Unbeknownst to them, others had taken notice of their discovery. Victor Kane, leader of the Void Seekers, had been monitoring the EOS's mission from the shadows. A ruthless man obsessed with uncovering the secrets of lost civilizations, Victor believed the architects held the key to ultimate power. When reports came in about the crystalline artifacts and Nathan's erratic behavior, Victor became convinced that Earth harbored something priceless, and he intended to claim it for himself. Victor assembled his elite team, arming them with advanced technology designed to bypass any defense system. We move fast and quiet, he instructed them. Whatever those scientists found, we take it. No questions, no delays. His men nodded, accustomed to his cold efficiency. They set course for Earth, unaware that they were walking into a nightmare far beyond their understanding. Back at the camp, Nathan and Clara worked tirelessly to decipher the smaller crystal they had brought with them. Using Clara's scanner, they discovered that it contained coordinates, locations scattered across the galaxy, each marked by symbols identical to those etched into Earth's ruins. These aren't random, Clara said, pointing at the data. They're connected. Whatever happened here, it happened elsewhere too. As dawn broke over the desolate landscape, neither of them noticed the shadowy figures moving stealthily through the ruins. Victor's team had arrived, and they weren't alone. The ground beneath them shifted faintly, as if responding to their presence. Earth's secrets were stirring, and soon, everyone would learn why it had remained vacant for so long. The visions Nathan had experienced left him unsettled. The towering figures he saw in his mind, beings of pure energy shaping worlds like clay, felt both awe-inspiring and terrifying. He couldn't shake the feeling that those beings, the architects, were connected to Earth's abandonment. But what troubled him most was the final image, a wave of darkness consuming everything, leaving nothing but emptiness behind. Clara noticed how distant he seemed as they continued exploring the ruins. She touched his arm gently. "You're not telling me something," she said, her tone soft but firm. Nathan hesitated before speaking. "It wasn't just random flashes," he admitted. I think I saw their end." He described the vision to her, his voice trembling slightly. Clara listened silently, her brow furrowed. When he finished, she shook her head. "We need to be careful," she warned. "If this place is tied to whatever destroyed them, we might not want to dig too deep." Despite her caution, they pressed on. The structure they had entered seemed to pulse with life, its walls glowing faintly as if responding to their presence. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, atop which rested a crystalline object. It shimmered with an otherworldly light, drawing their attention like a magnet. Nathan approached it cautiously, his heart pounding. As he reached out to touch it, Clara grabbed his wrist. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, her voice tight with worry. "I have to," Nathan replied, his gaze locked on the crystal. His fingers brushed its surface, and instantly, another vision overwhelmed him. This time, it was clearer. He saw Earth vibrant and alive, teeming with strange creatures and lush landscapes. Then came the shadowy figures, the architects, descending from the sky. They reshaped the planet, bending it to their will. But something went wrong. A crackling void spread across the land, swallowing everything in its path. The architects tried to stop it, but they were consumed as well. The vision ended abruptly, leaving Nathan gasping for air. Clara pulled him away from the crystal, her face pale. "That's enough," she said firmly. "Whatever this thing is, it's dangerous." Nathan nodded weakly, still shaken. But even as they stepped back, the crystal began to hum softly, its glow intensifying. Clara's scanner beeped wildly, unable to analyze the object. "It's reacting to us," she muttered, "like it knows we're here." Back on Solace Prime, Daniel Brooks grew increasingly frustrated. The Galactic Council showed little interest in Earth, dismissing it as an empty planet unworthy of attention. Sophia Lane shared his concerns, but knew better than to push too hard without solid evidence. "We need proof," she told Daniel. "Something undeniable." He nodded, scrolling through more documents. Buried deep within the archives, he found a chilling report, references to the Void, an entity older than the architects themselves. According to legend, the Void devoured entire civilizations, leaving only silence in its wake. Daniel felt a cold weight settle in his chest. Could the Void be connected to Earth? If so, the implications were catastrophic. He decided to act on his own, booking passage on a freighter bound for Earth. Sophia tried to talk him out of it, warning him of the risks, but Daniel was resolute. "Someone has to help them," he said. "If Nathan and Clara are right, we're dealing with something bigger than any of us." Meanwhile, Nathan and Clara realized they weren't alone. Hidden among the ruins, faint movements caught their eyes, shadows shifting where no light should fall. At first, they thought it was their imagination, but the shadows grew bolder, circling closer. Clara tightened her grip on her scanner, using it as a makeshift weapon. "Stay close," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Nathan nodded, his hand instinctively reaching for the crystal. As the shadows closed in, the crystal flared brightly, emitting a high-pitched whine. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and a gust of wind swept through the ruins, scattering debris. For a moment, everything went silent. Then, slowly, the shadows retreated, melting back into the darkness. Nathan and Clara exchanged a glance, unsure whether to feel relief or dread. Earth was hiding something far greater and far deadlier than anyone had imagined. And now, thanks to their discovery, it seemed to be waking up. Back on Solace Prime, the bustling capital world of the galaxy, Daniel Brooks sat hunched over a glowing screen in a dimly lit archive room. The archives were vast, filled with dusty shelves and humming data terminals that stored centuries of knowledge. Daniel was a historian, known for his relentless pursuit of forgotten truths. His latest obsession was Earth, or rather, the mystery surrounding it. For weeks, he had been digging through ancient records, piecing together fragments of information that others had dismissed as myths or errors. As he scrolled through faded texts and grainy images, something caught his eye. A single phrase repeated across multiple sources: the architects. At first, Daniel thought it might refer to an early human civilization, but the more he read, the stranger it became. These weren't humans. They were described as towering beings of light and energy, capable of shaping worlds with their will. Legends claimed they had created entire galaxies, leaving behind structures so advanced they defied explanation. But there was also a darker side to these stories. According to some accounts, the architects' creations often ended in chaos, leaving destruction in their wake. And then, just as suddenly as they appeared, they'd vanished without a trace. Daniel leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. He wasn't sure what to make of it. Was this real history, or just fanciful tales meant to scare children? He decided to share his findings with Sophia Lane, a colleague who specialized in ancient civilizations. Sophia was skeptical by nature, always demanding hard evidence before accepting any theory. When Daniel showed her the documents, she raised an eyebrow. "This sounds like science fiction," she said bluntly. "You're telling me some godlike race built planets and then disappeared. It's hard to believe." But later that evening, news broke about the failed landing attempt near Earth. Reports flooded in from the EOs, describing strange phenomena and an impenetrable force field. Sophia's skepticism began to waver. She called Daniel, her voice tinged with urgency. "Do you think this could be connected?" she asked. Could Earth have been one of their projects? Meanwhile, Nathan and Clara continued exploring the ruins on Earth. Each step revealed new layers of decay and abandonment. Vines twisted around shattered statues, and moss-covered cracked streets. It felt surreal, like walking through a graveyard frozen in time. As they moved deeper into the city, Nathan noticed patterns in the ruins. Certain symbols appeared repeatedly, etched into walls, carved into pillars, even painted faintly on crumbling tiles. They seemed familiar somehow, though he couldn't place why. Clara stopped abruptly, pointing at a large structure ahead. It looked different from the others, more intact, almost preserved. Its surface shimmered faintly under the pale sunlight filtering through the clouds. "That doesn't belong here," she whispered. Her scanner beeped erratically as they approached, unable to identify the material. The closer they got, the stronger the feeling grew that they were intruding where they shouldn't. Inside the structure, the air felt colder, heavier. Strange designs covered the walls, glowing faintly despite the lack of light. Nathan reached out to touch one, feeling an odd vibration beneath his fingers. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through his head, and visions flashed before his eyes. Images of towering figures manipulating stars, bending reality itself. He stumbled back, gasping for breath. Clara rushed to his side, gripping his arm tightly. "What did you see?" she demanded, her voice sharp with concern. I don't know," Nathan stammered, still disoriented. "It was like memories, but not mine." The experience left him shaken, but also more determined than ever to uncover the truth. Whatever had happened here went far beyond anything they had imagined. Sophia, watching the updates from Solace Prime, couldn't shake the feeling that Nathan and Clara were onto something monumental and potentially dangerous. She knew they needed help, but convincing the Galactic Council to take action wouldn't be easy. Politics always got in the way of progress. Still, Daniel urged her to keep pushing. "If we don't figure this out," he said grimly, "we might regret it." Earth's secrets remained buried, for now. But the closer anyone came to uncovering them, the clearer it became that the planet held horrors no one was prepared to face. In the vastness of space, where countless planets orbited their stars, Earth stood out as a strange mystery. It was a blue orb wrapped in thick clouds that hid its surface from curious eyes. For centuries, no one had dared to land on it or even claim it. The galaxy buzzed with theories about why this perfect planet remained untouched. Some said it was cursed. Others believed it held secrets too dangerous to uncover. But for Nathan Cole, a xenobiologist aboard the starship Eos, Earth was more than just a puzzle. It was a calling. Nathan wasn't alone in his mission. His partner, Clara Hayes, an astrophysicist with sharp eyes and a sharper mind, shared his curiosity but tempered it with caution. She often reminded him that some mysteries were better left unsolved. Still, both of them couldn't ignore the opportunity before them. The Galactic Exploration Council had finally approved a mission to investigate Earth after years of debate. This was their chance to find answers. The Eos approached Earth slowly, its engines humming softly as the crew prepared for landing. Through the ship's windows, Earth looked serene, almost inviting. But Nathan felt uneasy. Something about the planet seemed wrong. As they entered the atmosphere, the ship suddenly shuddered violently. Alarms blared, and red lights flashed across the control panel. Clara grabbed onto her seat, her face pale. "What's happening?" she shouted over the noise. Nathan worked quickly, trying to stabilize the ship. "It's like something is pushing us back," he said, his voice tense. The controls felt sluggish, as if an invisible hand was forcing them away. The crew exchanged worried glances. None of them had expected resistance like this. Whatever was keeping them out didn't want visitors. After several tense minutes, the shaking stopped. The ship stabilized, but the crew was shaken. Nathan turned to Clara. "We can't give up now," he said firmly. Clara hesitated, then nodded. They had come too far to turn back without at least trying to understand what was happening. Using advanced scanners, the team discovered what appeared to be an ancient defense system surrounding the planet. It was automated, designed to repel any attempt to land. With careful adjustments, they managed to disable part of the system long enough to make a safe descent. As the EOs touched down on Earth's surface, Nathan and Clara exchanged a look of awe and apprehension. They were the first beings in centuries to set foot on this mysterious world. Stepping outside, they were greeted by eerie silence. The air was thick and heavy, carrying a faint metallic smell. Around them stretched ruins, crumbling buildings overtaken by vines and moss. It was clear that Earth had once been home to a civilization, but now it felt abandoned, as if its creators had simply vanished overnight. Nathan knelt to examine a piece of broken stone, running his fingers over strange markings etched into its surface. "These symbols," he muttered, "they're not human." Clara joined him, her expression grim. "Whatever lived here wasn't us," she said quietly. "And whatever happened to them, it wasn't natural." Her words hung in the air, adding weight to the already oppressive atmosphere. Nathan felt a chill run down his spine. He had always been driven by curiosity, but now he wondered if they were stepping into something far beyond their understanding. As they ventured deeper into the ruins, the silence grew heavier, pressing against them like a physical force. Every step felt like an intrusion, as though the planet itself was watching. Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. Somewhere, hidden beneath the layers of decay and time, secrets waited to be uncovered, secrets that might explain why Earth's place in the galaxy had always been vacant. Little did they know, those secrets would soon terrify not just them, but the entire galaxy.